Hi everybody, it's Annette from The Art of Intuition, and today we're going to talk about pushing ourselves to our limits. And I wanted to do this one to kind of bring a little more information through regarding the difference between pushing ourselves, and we talk about being kind to ourselves, we're talking about how much our ascension journey is going to push us, and I want to kind of frame that a little bit because this journey will push you through to your limits, to your human limits. When I talk about limits, I'm always talking about our human limits. It's going to push you to every human fear you have, every human limit you have. That is what it's designed to do, because you're going beyond your human aspect. So you can't go beyond your human aspect unless you push yourself past your human aspect to where that is no longer where you make decisions from. So if you're not making decisions from that aspect, then that aspect is going to start to do the old, Lost in Space, danger, danger. It's going to start to freak out because that's where all that fear comes up. And that's why we have to push through it to clear that fear from our body. So there is a part of the process, and many parts of this process, where you're going to push yourself through your fear. You're going to push yourself through your limits. If you always have a safety net, and in our human realities, we had safety nets, and in our higher realities, you don't really get safety nets. But you will see sometimes that you've kind of set up safety nets and you really didn't realize that's what you've done. But you might still, even in your higher realities, have go-tos that you know you can go to. You know you can pull on this lever if it gets really, really bad. I can pull on this lever if it gets really, really bad. And you start having to go beyond that and not pull on that lever to see what happens. Not pull on that lever and just ride it all the way through and go through all the fear and push yourselves to know you're always going to be okay. You know, it's always going to be okay. I'm always going to be okay. And you have to kind of push yourself through that. Now, there's a difference between pushing ourselves and then we have the whole being kind to ourselves. Because what happens when we go through these massive pushes? You know, you're going to expand your consciousness. You're going to go through a massive expansion. And this happens all throughout your process. You're going to get to a different frequency. You're going to expand really big, and then you're going to shrink back down. You're going to contract back down. And then you're going to be faced with everything that's not that vibration. And that's how you embody a higher vibration. It doesn't happen overnight where you hit the frequency and then you have the vibration. And some of these longer, more embedded human programs like karma abundance clearing and the twin karma clearing, those can take years to actually clear out everything that's not that vibration anymore, to where you won't go to survival instinct if we're talking about abundance clearing when things get really rough, or you won't go to those lower aspects to make decisions from when you really get pushed to the wall. You have to show that you can always go and be your higher aspect all the time. So you expand, you contract back down, and everything that's not that vibration, your new vibration, has to go. And that's why you start to see all this stuff and you feel like there's a lot coming at you at one time, because you see all this stuff that's not aligned. You can't embody that new vibration when you have all these things around you that aren't that vibration. And that's where the pushing ourselves comes in. We have to start looking at all this stuff, and it'll be stuff you didn't see before, because when you can't align these realities. You always have to align from a higher vibration, right? Because you can't see it. You can't see what's not aligned unless you've expanded beyond it. When you expand beyond it, you can now look at it and go, wow, I didn't even see how lopsided this whole connection was, or how lopsided this whole situation was, how draining this was for me, until I looked at it. But you're looking at it from a higher frequency, and that's why you can see it all. Because when you're in it, something that might have looked fine 3 weeks ago, all of a sudden is a shit show. And you're looking at it and you're like, why didn't I see this before? Because you weren't expanded out enough to see it before. You know, you didn't have the capacity to see everything that's not aligned here. You might also see things you're dependent on. You know, what have you gotten dependent on? You can't take that dependency to this next vibration. You can't be dependent on this person. You can't be dependent on this situation. You can't have any of these safety nets anymore. What are your go-tos when things get really rough? And we start pushing ourselves. Another reason, a lot of times when we expand really big and then we contract back down and we have to start working through what's not that new vibration, it'll be exhausting. And that's another reason how you can see very quickly how distorted something is, because you're already exhausted from having to clear all this stuff out of your body, the fear, the pain, the blame, all that stuff out of your body. So you have all that going on, and then you bring in something that's sucking you more, in a sense, as far as pulling your energy more, because the person's not holding their highest vibration. It's just exasperated because you're already trying so hard to get all this stuff aligned, and you'll find a lot of stuff comes at you at once. I had a huge expansion the first week in April, contracted back down that second week, and it was a nightmare week, as my human goes. We're always going to be pushed through our human, push past our human comfort zones, push past those human limits. And it was just, everything was such a mess. Everything I looked at was a mess. All this stuff I thought was aligned. And I don't have that many people in my life. I don't have that many people around. And when you're looking at these, it's already like a small box, and now you're looking at this box and going, well, none of this works either anymore. You have to kind of make that decision. Is this worth aligning, or is this not worth trying to align? Is this now just gone too far? I just need to just jettison, and not really jettison because we don't do that, but just close the reality down, or pull back on how much support you're giving in certain situations. And maybe you're going to have to check with yourself and repurpose that energy somewhere else, because you're getting shown this isn't going to work. And you might need to let a lot of people go. You might let a lot of situations go from our highest place, but still let them go. And we also get into we talked about being kind to ourselves when we go through this. And to me, that kind of also goes into what's the monologue I have going on. I'm going to push myself to the limit. What's my inner monologue around what's going on? When I'm in it last week, I didn't understand 100% what I was doing again. Because when you get in it and it's so much coming at you at once, so many things are getting closed out at one time, that you're so exhausted and you have so much clearing going on, you can't even see the big picture yet. So what's my monologue going on? Am I saying, oh God, you're a failure, that didn't work. Oh, look at this is a mess too. Look, this person's never there when you need them. This whole thing is your fault. That's a big one. This whole thing is your fault. Because that's our ego saying that stuff. And it's also clearing that stuff, because we really feel that way, so our ego's clearing that stuff up. But just listen to what your monologue is. Look at all the stuff that's coming up to be released, so we can achieve that higher vibration. But you get a lot of it at once. So your inner monologue, you can still have that monologue come up, but say, okay, I don't believe that. That's not what's going on here. I'll know more of what's going on here when I get a little bit more out of it. But right now, that's not what's going on here. Just listen to how you're portraying it, because that's going to also exhaust you. And that goes back into the not being kind. You're being mean to yourself, because you're saying all this stuff is, oh, look what you did. Look what's happening now. Look how far you've taken this. Look what's going on. But that's always going to be our human saying that. It's always going to be our human judging the situation we're in. But you are going to get pushed, and that's the point of it. And that's why your limit keeps changing on how far you're willing to go, because what used to push you before doesn't push your fear anymore. And then you have to go to the next step up, and that's going to clear all that fear out and to really make you where you don't have any limits on anything. And that's the goal of the whole thing, where you don't have any more limits. You're not limited by any of it anymore. It's all, you don't go into the fear. You don't go into that stuff. You might have fear come up from time to time, but you're not going to go into a survival aspect when it gets really rough. What's that song? When the going gets tough, the tough get going. And that's kind of what it is. You kind of have to toughen up and just kind of bust through it, knowing that you will get to the other side of it, and there will be support there. It might not be from where you thought it was going to come from, but it will be support there. You just have to get through your fear. But look at your inner monologue. That's critical, because that's when we can be really mean to ourselves about what is really going on. But when you have a lot of stuff coming at you and you're looking at all this stuff, it is our responsibility to align it. And if you see you're dependent on certain things, you've gotten a dependency on something, person always, chipping in, a person always being there, and all of a sudden you now see that I've gotten so dependent on this person, I might not be looking at other options anymore. Like before, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, when we're in our human realities, we wouldn't have gone to this person for assistance. We would have worked it out. And we get into our higher realities, and there becomes a time when we have to be supported for a while, especially if you always supported yourself, and people will support you for a while. People will be there to help you, and it's aligned for them to do that and for you to allow that. So that's part of that process too. If you've always supported yourself, people will be there to support you while you go through part of your process. So that's kind of that part of balancing things out. But then you can get to where, wait, now I've gotten so dependent on that, I'm not looking at any other options. And I'm not saying to my universe, which is just me, higher versions of myself, bring me another option. Like, bring me an idea, bring me something else. Why do I always keep going back here? There's got to be another way to do this. And so what would I have done before I was dependent on this whole thing always being there? You know, you have to kind of expand out to see what else is available, what other opportunities are out there, what other things you can do, what are you not seeing. I've noticed my dependency on certain things lately and certain people lately. So I've kind of started putting out to my universe, bring me ways to not be dependent. Show me what else I can do to get off the dependency that I've kind of developed over the year on certain things and certain people to be there when there's a part of me that knows it's not aligned anymore, because it is that dependency energy. And it goes from being a supportive energy, and now it's gone into the distortion because it's no longer supported and it's no longer supporting my vibration anymore. Now it's in more of a dependency as I move into a new vibration. So just take a look at that. Take a look at when things start coming at you all at once. And a lot of things, you look at them and you realize these things are not aligned anymore. What do I need to do now? No, you just had a big expansion and now you have to align everything. And that's where it can get, where we do get pushed and we might feel squished. Because we're also have that huge vibration expansion. Now we're squished back into, this denser reality where nothing's working anymore. That gives us that feeling of being squished, and now we're getting pushed. So take a look at all that and keep practicing the art of intuition.